Hey everyone, welcome back to another business analysis video. Today we're looking at delivering the changes. How do we contribute as business analysts in the delivering the changes part of the project lifecycle? So in the last video we looked at defining the requirements, how we document the requirements that we have gathered through our situation investigation and problem analysis step in the business analysis approach, how we document this in a business requirement document, a BRD, which is a document produced within the waterfall methodology of a project delivery. So once we have defined the requirements and possibly signed it off in waterfall, the tech team or the developers would then start to create the designs for these requirements that we have documented. Once they do that, there's a testing phase as well, and then when our requirements are ready to be delivered, now comes the delivering the changes. The business analyst does contribute in this step of the project lifecycle. This is also the final stage of the BA approach, where the business analyst is responsible for ensuring that the changes that are made to the system, the changes that are implemented on the system due to the requirements that have been defined and documented, that the stakeholders are satisfied with the end product resulting from the change to that system or to implementing a new system. In the case of our project is the new CRM system being implemented. Okay, so these are some tasks that the business analyst will undertake at this stage. The first thing is the business analyst will verify the requirements that have been met, to check that these requirements that I've gathered and documented have been met in the design stage through testing and through delivering the change through go live. So we would review the final product to ensure this. This could again involve testing the system or working closely with the stakeholders to gather feedback after testing. Maybe there are some changes, maybe the stakeholders have new requirements, right, to add to this testing stage. So once we've verified these requirements have been met through testing, we also facilitate user acceptance testing. We work with the stakeholders to facilitate this UAT, user acceptance testing, having the end users, the stakeholders, the people who will eventually start using the CRM system. We'll have them tested to ensure that it meets their needs and they're able to perform the tasks that they require effectively, right? At this stage, business analysts can also document changes and results through the UAT. Document any changes that are made to the system and the results of testing and UAT. So from testing, there could be bugs, there could be new scenarios that could come up through testing that you might want to document these changes that the stakeholders might require or request through that testing. This document that you created will be used to verify the requirements that have been met and also to demonstrate that the system meets the needs that the organization and the stakeholder desire. Now, the fourth thing that business analyst is doing in this delivering the changes step is to provide support during implementation. In the project lifecycle, right, the main areas that business analyst gets involved in is that situation investigation and problem analysis and defining requirements, our identification of as-is, gap analysis, to-be, and requirements documentation. However, throughout the project lifecycle, the business analyst adds so much value. So in delivering the changes, we are also supporting during this implementation of the new system. How do we do this? We provide support during that phase of the project. We help the stakeholders to adapt to the new system. We also provide training when needed because we've gathered the requirements, we know what the system should be doing, so we are generally able to train the new users on this new system resulting from the change. Now, another thing that business analysts can do is to facilitate the post-implementation review. So you've implemented the system, you've gone live, right? There is a review that is done post the implementation of that system. So as business analysts, we may work with the stakeholders to conduct this review to identify any areas for improvement and ensure that the system is meeting the needs of the organization and the stakeholders. So we're reviewing what we've gone live, maybe over a certain period of time. We're reviewing the systems, we're reviewing through training and through the end users using the system. There could be changes which will result in more requirements, elicitation and documentation. So in summary, in terms of deliverables at this stage, the business analyst can produce a final report which will summarize the changes that have been made to the system, or any testing or any UAT results. The business analyst will summarize this in a report and possibly create recommendations for further improvements. You can also provide user guides, training materials. Business analysts are very valuable in this aspect, so that you can help the stakeholders to adapt to the new system, providing that documentation to outline any support processes that may be involved during that stage. So overall, the business analyst goal in this stage is to ensure that the changes made to the system or the implementation of the new system meets the organization and stakeholder needs, so that the project can be considered a success. Now, you might be wondering or not so clear about the methodology that we're applying on our CRM project. Is it waterfall? Is it agile? Based on the information that we've provided so far throughout the course of this playlist or this project that we're exploring, it appears that our project is waterfall, right? And this is because the project is following that sequential and linear process with the defined set of phases, okay? As we've already explored the life cycle of a project, right? Where the project is following each stage within the project life cycle and completing each stage before moving to the next. That's waterfall methodology. So additionally, the requirements for the new system are being defined upfront, and the project is being managed within that strict timeline, within a strict budget. These are all characteristics of the waterfall project. However, as much as we've just looked at the BA approach, the business analyst approach in the project life cycle, right, we can also apply this business analysis approach within agile methodology of project delivery. Okay, so recap the BA approach. You've been presented on a project, you've been employed on a project. What are your tasks? What are you doing? What approach are you applying to this project? Okay, we already looked at investigating the situation, considering the stakeholder perspectives, analyzing the needs, evaluating various options available to meet the needs, and then defining the requirements and delivering the changes, right? We've applied this in the waterfall methodology. However, how do we apply this approach in an agile methodology for our CRM project? So what will we do here? In the first stage, at investigating the situation, where we are applying our interviews, workshop, document analysis, and various other techniques for investigating situation and analyzing problems, the business analyst in the agile environment can work closely with the product owner and the stakeholders to understand the current situation. What are we doing currently? What are the business processes that rely on the current in-house CRM system? What are the reasons for the planned migration to the cloud new CRM system? And what are the potential benefits of moving to on cloud? Okay. And again, our investigation will still involve interviews, reviewing existing documents, and analyzing any data related to the current system. Now, the second stage or the second phase of the BA approach, which is considering the perspectives, you first need to identify who your stakeholders are so that you can consider their perspectives. Okay, you will also work closely with the product owner as well as the stakeholders to identify the perspectives and the needs of the stakeholders. What environment or what departments are the stakeholders from? What interest, what power do they have on the project? So this could include your sales, your marketing, your customer service, your IT. They all have different perspectives that could impact your project or your new system delivery. What sort of tools is the business analyst using here? You can use tools such as personas, user stories to develop a deep understanding of the user's needs and their perspectives. Okay, now in the analyze needs stage, this is where we are analyzing our as-is, identifying pain points, looking at the gap analysis as well to meet our to-be. Again, we're working closely with the product owner, the stakeholders, defining a set of high-level user stories, right, which will generally describe your functional and non-functional requirements for the new system. Okay, we'll look at some examples of user stories as part of this course. So the team will use these user stories to develop your product backlog within Agile. Rather than creating a BRD, we create a product backlog which holds all our user stories, our epics, our requirements. And then these requirements will be prioritized by the product owner based on business value, based on the risk, and based on various other factors. At the evaluate options stage, the team will work collaboratively. We're all working together, the product owner, the business analyst, the developers, right, members of the Agile environment. We will look at evaluating options for the new system, such as the different cloud-based CRM platforms. We're exploring various options, looking at their costs, looking at their benefits, looking at the time frame, looking at resources. The product owner will then use these inputs from the stakeholders as well as us, the team, to then decide on which option we are pursuing for our project. Once we've done that, we're now, as business analysts, we're now defining the requirements. So again, business analysts, we always work very closely with the product owner. So however, in defining the requirement stage, we're also working closely with the product owner and the development team to refine and clarify the requirements that we've gathered and documented in our product backlog. And generally, we will use feedback from stakeholders, the team's testing, and various other development efforts. Once we've done this, the product owner's role is to prioritize these refined requirements and add them to the product backlog. However, a lot of times business analyst ends up doing this. And then finally, in the delivering changes stage, which is what we've covered at the start of this video, within the waterfall environment, in Agile, business analysts together with the team, with the Agile team, who are referred to as developers. Business analyst is part of this team called developers. Okay, we will work in iterations or sprints to deliver the working product increments, right? So we will work with the product owner and the stakeholders as business analysts to verify the requirements have been met. We will also facilitate user acceptance testing, and then we will document any changes made to the system and the results of testing and UAT. So in delivering changes, we're not delivering the whole requirement at one go, as in waterfall would do. We are delivering in sprints. For instance, we could select certain user stories depending on the prioritization that the product owner has done. We will select this and place them in a sprint. For example, a 2-weekly sprint, to say, okay, we will deliver these 10 user stories in this sprint 1. We will deliver, later we'll have other meetings to identify what other stories are we delivering in the next 2 weeks, right? So we are delivering in iterations, in increments. So again, in Agile methodology, the approach is more iterative and collaborative. There's a lot of collaboration, talking, daily stand-ups, and transparency in Agile environment, with a focus on delivering quickly and adapting to changing requirements and priorities, because requirements change regularly in Agile environment. The business analysts work closely with the product owner and development team, remember, within Agile, to ensure that the systems meet the needs of the organization and stakeholders, and that changes are delivered incrementally over time. So that's the end of today's video, looking at delivering changes within waterfall as well as Agile. In the next video, we will go further into what this Agile methodology is, what are the things that we are doing with regards to the delivery of our CRM on cloud projects. I hope you've enjoyed today's video. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this content. You never know who it might help. As always, I'll see you in my next one. Peace.